That's a very QPR result, isn't it? After Wednesday night's pitiful 1-0 loss away at Stoke City left QPR 4 points adrift from safety, a 1-0 win away at Bristol City yesterday afternoon has clawed us back to just 1 point below Millwall, reigniting our hopes of survival and, more scarily, setting up a 6th opportunity to climb out of the bottom 3 at home to Rotherham next Saturday. I'm Hoopsa, I make videos before and after every QPR fixture, so as usual, let's discuss yesterday's performance. That midweek loss, the 5th time this season we have blown the chance to climb out of the bottom 3, was a real hard one to take, I thought. And no, that's not the reason I've shaved my head. But after 4 matches unbeaten before that result, it felt like a real sucker punch to see that really sheepish and poor performance. And the fact that we just reverted back to type was really frustrating. That honestly left me with very little hope of leaving Bristol City with any points, especially given that they had ended their 6-game winless streak with victories over Borough and Southampton in the past week alone. You could tell that Martí Cifuentes was just as frustrated as the fans after that result against Stoke, so I was really interested in the days that followed to see what team he would put out on Saturday in response to that result. Do you just call it a bad day at the office and stick with the same lineup, put your faith in them again, or do you change things up, make wholesale changes, send a message to the players, try something different tactically, at the risk of potentially doing the side more damage? Well, Martí very much went for the latter choice, making 5 changes to the starting lineup that played against Stoke on Wednesday night. And I have to say, before the match, I thought these were pretty brave calls. Jimmy Dunn, who hasn't played in the starting 11 since Watford at home last month, came back into the side. Sam Field, a player that many had expected not to be able to get back into the team since the arrival of Isaac Hayden, did come back into the side in place of Jack Colback. Lucas Andersen got his first QPR start in place of Joe Hodge. Willett came back in for Smith, and Dykes returned up top in place of Sinclair Armstrong. Obviously completely fair after Wednesday night that Martí would want to change the team up, but I did have 2 concerns going into this, one being that complete lack of pace in the side, and the other being Dunn playing at right back. But in Martí we trust, and rightfully so, because his decision to slow the team down, add a more physical touch to the starting lineup, and that added creativity from Lucas Andersen worked an absolute treat. Bristol City would have the larger share of the ball and a spate of efforts in the first 40 minutes. Bristol City would have the larger share of the ball for the majority of the first half, with a spate of chances in the first 40 minutes, the first coming from Jason Knight's right-footed shot, which couldn't quite find itself on target. And most of the home fans thought they had opened the scoring just 15 minutes later, with Ross McCrory's volley outside of the box hitting the side netting. Mehmeti's right-footed shot would force a save from Begovic on 36 minutes, and Ranger at heart Naki Wells would blast a free kick into Rose Ed. But QPR stayed resolute and limited Bristol City to very little other than these half chances. Hats must be taken off for Jimmy Dunn, who more than held his own at right back. He just added an extra degree of security to that back line in place of Cannon, who I think must still be holding on to an injury. Now, with the changes that Martí had made to the team, it's no surprise that in an attacking sense we were not exactly scintillating in that first 40 minutes, but once we did start to attack, we looked very good. QPR's ability to come into the game was partly aided by Sam Bell going off with a hamstring injury on 26 minutes, and that did slow Bristol City's momentum down. And Sam Field must have been taking notes from Isaac Hayden while he served his suspension, because when he got the ball, he was distributing nicely and, dare I say, forwards. And soon enough, we started to see Lucas Andersen's creativity in motion. He initially looked like he was struggling with the physicality of the English game, but he could have had an assist on 35 minutes, finding Chris Willett for QPR's first effort of the game. They were a pair that linked up really well in this match, continually swapping positions between the middle and the wing, and that's exactly how our goal came about on 41 minutes. It started with Chris Willett on the counter, driving with the ball from the halfway line and cutting inside. So Andersen immediately drifted from that number 10 position out onto the wing, ready to collect Willett's outside of the boot pass. Andersen spent the time it took to arrive at his boot not looking at the ball itself, but looking up into the box to see who was coming to attack it. Something that literally every other QPR player in the squad could benefit from learning from. And with his options assessed, he expertly picked out Elias Chair, who was late arriving to the penalty spot, and he calmly slotted the ball into the bottom right. A really intelligent goal from the three of them, and when you watch it back, it looks so easy because they've just picked the simple ball in every moment of this move. That's Andersen's second assist in just 3 games, and you can really see why when he's playing like this. Bristol City would immediately go in search of an equaliser, with efforts from both Williams and Knight saved by Begovic, but QPR would go into the break with the lead. And rather than camping on a hugely important 3 points in that second half, Marty instead decided to send them out as prime Barcelona and search for the second. In the first half, we scored a goal from just 2 efforts, but in the second half, we wouldn't be able to score from 9 opportunities with 6 on target. And that's not to say that we played bad, because I actually can't believe some of the football that we played in that second half. I know half the lineup changed, but it is hilarious some of the football that we were playing compared to Stoke just 3 days earlier. The first effort would come from Elias Chair, who was cleverly slotted in behind the Bristol City defence from Lucas Andersen's free kick, but his right-footed shot was saved. And we would keep Bristol City quiet again with just 1 effort from them in the first 15 minutes of the half, and so Manning would go on to make a triple substitution in search of an equaliser, but it would make very little difference because we stayed compact and we kept creating ourselves. Chair nearly returned the favour to Andersen, taking on his player on the wing and cutting the ball in, finding Sam Field, who neatly passed the ball back to Lucas Andersen to shoot, but his shot was blocked and Lyndon Dykes was wrong-footed to poke in the rebound. On 69 minutes, Marty would make his first change, bringing on Joe Hodge for the brilliant Lucas Andersen. And 5 minutes later, he would make a further 2 substitutions, with Frey on for Dykes and Colback on for Hayden. And they all mucked in and contributed to this great QPR performance in their own ways. Hodge, fresh off of the bench, looked back to his energetic self and was looking to make things happen with a great through ball to Chris Willock. Frey looked an immediate presence once again and would rattle off a shot soon after coming on. And Colback would not only come in and finish off the excellent job that Isaac Hayden had done up until that point, but he also played a large part in the excellent spell of triangle passing down that left wing towards the end of the match, with Chair, Field, Powell and Colback carving their way through the Bristol City defence in what is probably the best passage of play I've seen under Marty Cifuentes. It would end with Powell delivering an Andersen-inspired ball into the box for Chris Willock, and he looked destined to make it 2-0, but Max O'Leary's chest said otherwise. Willock could have literally had a hat-trick with multiple efforts following straight after that, but he just didn't have the shooting boots on to go with what is probably his best QPR performance in a long time. The Robins would end the match searching for an equaliser with a flurry of corners, those set pieces that QPR love to defend so much, and you wouldn't have blamed a betting man to lump all of his money on an equaliser at this point. But no, that is not the QPR that turned up to Ashton Gate, and Sam Field cleared the ball off of the line at the death with a fantastic Ralph Wiggum impression that you would like to think that Wells would have been flagged offside had he managed to have nudged that one in. And just like that, we're back in the mix in a very QPR fashion. We're just 1 point away from Millwall, who continued their landslide with a 2-0 home loss to Sheffield Wednesday. We're 2 points away from Huddersfield, who lost the point they pulled back against Hull City on the 92nd minute, with a late Hull City winner just 2 minutes later. And we're 3 points away from Stoke City, who reverted straight back to type after QPR's Valentine's Day gift, with a 1-0 loss to Coventry. I talked in my post-match reaction for the Stoke match about the fact that I just couldn't see us being presented one of those opportunities to escape the relegation zone again. And here we are 4 days on now with a 6th chance to escape the relegation zone with a win against Rotherham, provided that results go our way. So, credit where credit is due, that was absolutely the right response from the team. Marty got the calls absolutely right. Lucas Andersen was a wonder, and I can't wait to see him at full match fitness because we finally got that nice link between Chair and Willock, and he's going to be key to getting the best out of them for the final run-in. I mean, has Chair ever been played a ball like that to him in the box? Because this is what he can do with it. This result is just more evidence that we seem to play better against the more quality attacking sides because we're able to attack them in the space that they leave behind, whereas we really struggle against the low blocks of teams like Stoke and Huddersfield and Plymouth. And that's why, despite a fantastic win yesterday, we can't get too carried away because we're facing another team just like that in the form of Rotherham next weekend. It's an awkward coincidence that we always happen to face these kind of teams when we're presented with the chances to get out of the bottom 3. But yesterday's result is completely meaningless unless we manage to find a way of winning against Rotherham. Marty and the team must find a method of breaking down these kind of blocks, though you'd like to think that the Cruyff ball we played towards the end of the second half yesterday will come in very useful for that, as well as the added creativity from Andersen. I said at the start of the video that I was really curious to see how Marty changed the team for the Bristol City match, and I have the same curiosity going into our next home match. Not only because we need to find creativity against another negative side, but also because the performances of yesterday will have given him a lot to think about. Does Cannon return to the side, or is Dunn the added bit of steel that we need at the back? Will he shuffle the central defensive pack again, or is Field back in the good books? And is Frey ready for a first start, offering us a threat in the box from the get-go? I don't know the answer to these questions, but if this time next week I'm posting a video about Rotherham's first win in 8 via an 89th minute Jordan Hugill corner goal, then you should probably expect another change in my appearance again. Maybe a Lucas Andersen tattoo this time. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, then please do consider liking and subscribing. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in my next video for the Rotherham preview. Cheers!